The music paused, a relentless beat that vibrated through Chinedu's chest, but he barely registered it. His eyes were fixed on Amara's retreating figure, the way she moved with an almost predatory grace through the throng of bodies. He felt a strange mix of frustration and fascination. He'd come to this club seeking a distraction, a brief respite from the pressures of his life, but he'd found something far more compelling, far more unsettling. He watched as she paused, briefly, by a table where a group of men sat, their eyes following her every move. She exchanged a few words, her smile returning, practiced and polished, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, a weariness that belied the facade. He felt a surge of protectiveness, an irrational desire to pull her away from them, to shield her from their gaze. He knew he was being foolish, that he was projecting his own desires and insecurities onto her. He knew that she was a bronze girl, that she operated in a world he barely understood, a world of transactions and fleeting encounters. But he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her, that she was trapped in a situation she couldn't escape. He found himself moving, pushing his way through the crowd, drawn to her like a moth to a flame. He caught up to her just as she was turning to leave the table, her eyes widening slightly in surprise. "Amara," he said, his voice low, his hand reaching out to touch her arm, a gesture he immediately regretted. She flinched, pulling away from his touch, her eyes flashing with anger. "What do you want, doctor?" she hissed, her voice barely audible above the music. "I thought I made it clear." He hesitated, searching for the right words, but they seemed to elude him. I wanted to talk some more," he stammered, his eyes searching hers, trying to convey the sincerity of his intentions. "I wanted to understand." Amara's lips curled into a sardonic smile.
"Understand what? My price. My methods. My clientele."
Her words were laced with venom, a sharp reminder of the chasm that separated their worlds. He was a doctor, a man of privilege, and she was, what? A woman selling her time, her body, her dignity. He felt a wave of shame wash over him, a sense of guilt for his own ignorance, his own arrogance. "I wanted to understand you," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "The real you." Amara's eyes softened slightly, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her face, but it was quickly replaced by a mask of indifference. "There is no real me, doctor," she said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. "There's just me, and my job." She turned to leave, but he grabbed her arm, his grip firm but gentle. "Please," he pleaded, his eyes searching hers. "Just give me a chance. Let me show you that I'm not like the others." Amara hesitated, her eyes searching his, trying to decipher his intentions. She saw something in his gaze, a sincerity that she wasn't used to seeing. She saw a vulnerability, a loneliness that mirrored her own. She sighed, a sound of resignation. "Fine," she said, her voice laced with a mixture of weariness and curiosity. "But just for a few minutes. And don't expect any miracles." She led him to a quieter corner of the club, away from the prying eyes and the thumping music. They sat in a dimly lit booth, the air thick with the scent of stale cigarettes and spilled drinks. "So," Amara began, her voice laced with skepticism, "what is it you want to know, doctor? What deep, dark secrets do you think I'm hiding?" Chinedu hesitated, unsure of where to begin. "I just want to know your story," he said, his voice sincere. "I want to know how you got here." Amara's smile was bitter. "You want the sub-story?" she asked, her voice laced with sarcasm. "The tale of woe and misfortune. The one where I'm a victim of circumstance, forced into this life by some cruel twist of fate." He shook his head. "I just want to know the truth," he said, his eyes searching hers. "Whatever that may be." Amara looked at him, her eyes searching his, trying to decipher his intentions. She saw something in his gaze, a genuine curiosity, a desire to understand. She saw a vulnerability, a loneliness that mirrored her own. She hesitated, her defenses wavering. For a moment, she considered telling him everything, revealing the scars and the secrets she had so carefully concealed. But the fear of judgment, the ingrained instinct to protect herself, held her back. "The truth is," she said, her voice low, her eyes filled with a mixture of weariness and resignation. Life isn't a fairy tale, doctor. It's a hustle. And sometimes, you have to do what you have to do to survive. She paused, her eyes searching his, trying to gauge his reaction. Is that enough truth for you? She asked, her voice laced with a challenge. Chinedu looked at her, his heart aching for the pain he saw in her eyes. He knew that she was holding back, that she was protecting herself from him, from the world. But he also knew that he wasn't going to give up. He was determined to break through her defenses, to understand the woman beneath the mask. No, he said, his voice firm, his eyes filled with determination. It's not enough. I want to know more. I want to know everything. Amara looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of skepticism and something else. She saw a spark of something in his gaze, a determination that mirrored her own. She knew that he was different, that he wasn't like the other men she encountered. But she also knew that he was playing with fire, that he was stepping into a world he didn't understand. Be careful what you wish for, doctor, she said, her voice low, her eyes filled with a warning. You might just get more than you bargained for.